Hey everybody, my name is Oscar Silva. I'm running for school board in position one. Most importantly, I'm a husband and my best friend. I'm a father of five and a new grandfather. Less importantly, I'm a learning and development professional at a bank. I volunteer at Oak Forest Elementary in Watchdogs and several other community activities. And just the fact that you're watching this video encourages me because you're engaged in this election, and I thank you for that. And looking forward to meeting all of you at future events.
Many people in our district are concerned about declining test scores. However, this is a nationwide issue, not an isolated one. What do you see as the root cause of this decline, and what actionable solutions would you bring to the table for discussion with the rest of the board members and committees? Bonus points if you can provide insight from at least one current campus action plan.
You're right. It is a nationwide issue. I do want to be fair to the argument because the argument that we're hearing from some of my fellow candidates and some people in the community is that, yes, we are seeing, for example, statewide decreases, but that Humble ISD scores are decreasing at a more substantial rate than some of our neighbors. And of course, we've got our own set of dynamics, right, to consider being one of the most or one of the fastest growing areas in the entire country. There are some things that we know from data alone. One, that we need to do everything in our power to recruit and retain amazing teachers. And that means things like focusing on mental health resources for teachers, making sure that we're giving dedicated professional development time for them, looking at mentorship for new teachers, and more than anything else, making sure our teachers are treated with the respect that they deserve. I happen to have the privilege of serving on the Title I site-based decision-making committee over at Oak Forest Elementary. And in those meetings, I'm surrounded by all these amazing teachers that are working long after school has ended. And with me and other parents and their principal and district administration personnel are looking at data and looking at strengths and opportunities at Oak Forest. And that includes test scores, of course. And it's really amazing to hear them brainstorm and come up with ideas that they can do to move the needle in all these areas. So how do we take these amazing meetings that I'm seeing at this one campus and do that at the district level, where we take these phenomenal principals and teachers and give them a seat at the table district wide so that we have these frontline experts telling the school board what they need to succeed in doing the one thing that they really want to do, which is teaching our kids and helping them succeed.
It is no secret that the current financial status of our school district is concerning, due in part to wasted funds on lawsuits related to construction issues, Title IX investigations, and other legal matters. Moving forward, what steps do you believe we can take to recover from this negative balance? Additionally, how do you intend to ensure that similar lawsuits are avoided in the future?
Not only do the things you mentioned hurt the financial bottom line, like you said, they also hurt the trust the public has in the district overall. So first, it's important to note that we have to be pragmatic when it comes to budget issues. Something like 75 to 85% of the budget goes to salaries and benefits for personnel throughout the district. So when we as candidates talk about managing the budget, if we're not talking about firing people, we're really talking about 15 to 25% of the overall budget. And one thing that I have to mention is to go back to giving our frontline experts, those principals, those teachers, a seat at the table, making sure that as we are making buying decisions around curriculums, resources, strategies, that we're working with them to make sure that we're getting them what they'll actually need, what they can use, what they will use, so that it's not just sitting in a closet somewhere. And we've also heard both from the community and from the board, the existing board, they've talked about the opportunities that have existed around clear goals and evaluations for the superintendent. And I'm glad to hear that some of that is being put into place right now as we're speaking, is what we're hearing. And if I have the privilege of getting elected, I'll continue to make sure that that happens, since really that's the very first step to risk mitigation in the district when we're talking about things like lawsuits.
While I understand that high schools are implementing the Evolve weapons detection system, this does nothing to address the issue of fights on campus. As a parent of a child who was attacked in a classroom, I am deeply concerned that incidents of fighting and mutual combat continue to rise, with a 13.7% increase since the 2021-2022 school year, which was our first full year back after the COVID lockdown. This is a two-part question. Part one, what actionable violence prevention measures will you propose to the board and its safety committee at all grade levels? And two, if your proposal requires funding, how do you suggest securing that funding, especially considering that we may lose enforcement of the ESSA moving forward?
Well, I don't want to understate the importance of the system you mentioned and all the several other objectives we've seen happen throughout the district. And it is very important that we continue to ensure that Chief Cook and the Humble ISD Police Department have the funding and equipment and resources and training they need to keep our kids safe. But when we're talking about internal issues, bullying, fighting, there's a few things that we have to consider. First of all, when a student does assault another student or a staff member, the district needs to continue wrapping up the consequences that come their way. And by the way, that does have to include in our transportation department, right? I'm hearing not only from teachers, but also our bus drivers that when these things happen, they don't always feel 100% supported by the district, that consequences are coming behind those actions. We also have to have a really big push around programs that already exist, like Watchdogs, Ironman, the mental health resources that our counseling department offers already. We need to make sure that every single parent that's out there is aware that these things exist, that they can help participate, so we can kind of grow in this area as a district. Because you're right, keeping kids safe is not just about detecting weapons at the front door. Not that that's not important, of course it is, but it has to be a comprehensive plan, including all the things I mentioned and probably a lot more.
It is well established through multiple medical and peer-reviewed studies that there is a strong correlation between child health and academic success. In November 2021, current board members Chris Parker and Mike Grabowski voted against keeping the district's contract with Memorial Hermann, which provided free healthcare for students at some of our most at-risk schools, four of which are Title I schools. Given that healthier students generally perform better academically, and considering that every candidate is running on a platform of academic improvement, I find it difficult to justify the decision to eliminate a proven support system for student success. Do you support this clinic, and would you vote to keep it if the issue were to arise again? And what are your thoughts on the student nutrition program, such as the free breakfast program offered by Humble ISD this year?
I told this story at a recent forum, but I'll tell it again for anybody that wasn't there. A few years ago, I was driving to Dallas and I stopped at Buc-ee's, as one should, and bought beef jerky, as one should. And in the process of enjoying that beef jerky, I cracked one of my teeth on the way to Dallas. It just so happened that this was the day after Thanksgiving. So it ended up being like 4 days before I could go see a dentist. And of course, for that entire 4 days, just in a ton of pain. And there's no way that in that moment, in those days, that I could have learned anything, comprehended anything, remembered anything. I was just simply in too much pain. And so, do I support it? Yes, I do, because a child wouldn't be able to learn in that situation either. Now, does that mean that we don't need to consider the financial cost or that we have to offer every single service that a medical partner offers? Of course not. But when we're talking about basic health, dental, vision, if we can do it in a way that makes financial sense, then yes, it's definitely something that I can support. And look, the same thing goes for the nutrition programs you mentioned. We know, I know that it's difficult to focus on comprehension when you're hungry. So yes, if we can do it, we absolutely should do it, and I would support that as well.
How do you feel about school vouchers? Are you for or against them?
Yeah, we have to be pragmatic on this too. Like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to vouchers or ESAs or school choice or whatever term you like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when here in Texas. Now, I tend to approach things from a perspective of positive intent. So if I approach this from that perspective, I could definitely see why one would support ESAs or vouchers or school choice, trying to give a student that's maybe stuck in a not a great situation and hopefully get them in a better situation. But I do have to say this, the current bill seems to be saying that educating a kid costs about $10,000 per year, and Texas's basic allotment has been hovering around 6,100 for years at this point. And so what that means is, again, being realistic that this is a matter of when, not if, the board needs to continue advocating for two things. One, enrollment-based funding rather than attendance-based funding. And we need to be advocating for this increase in that basic allotment to match what they're saying it costs to educate a kid each year based on the bill that they're proposing. Y'all, thank you so much for watching this. Again, if you took the time to watch this, it's super encouraging because that means you're engaged in this election. And these elections matter. They matter a lot when it comes to the protection of our kids, the education of our kids. Again, my name's Oscar Silva. I'm running for position 1 for the school board because I believe that leadership determines culture and culture determines outcomes. Early voting starts April 22nd. If I haven't had the chance to meet you, shoot me an email, shoot me a message. I'd love to chat. Thank you so much.